to another Office Hours Global Edition. This is July 20th. My name is George, and I'm here with you today to answer your most pressing questions, give you product announcements, and of course, special technical demo at the end of the event, just to keep things going, everyone learning, right? So, first section we have for Office Hours, as usual, is the announcement section. This is where you get the latest and greatest on VTEX products and, on the technical side. And for this first announcement, I like to call Karen. She'll be talking to us about Reviews and Ratings API. Hey, Karen, how's it going?
Hey George, how are you? I'm great. And hi everyone. So I'm gonna talk about an update we made on the delete multiple reviews from the Reviews and Ratings API. Before it didn't have the request body, so the endpoint was not functioning. But now we added the request body, so the request body is array of all reviews that you need to delete. So we included some examples. Some IDs can be just a number, or some IDs can be like this string, for example. So we included both. And now the endpoint is functional again. And that's it.
Awesome. So, yeah, if you need to delete multiple reviews, that's always really a good option, having an API. And it's a good thing. We have a demo later today on reviews and ratings, so we'll be able to connect the API with the creator and the app.
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So for this next announcement, I'd like to call Bia. She'll be talking to us about a new app, Delivery Window Blocker app. Hey, Bia, how's it going?
Hello, George. Glad to be here. So the regional team from Brazil developed a new app. It's an admin app. It's the Delivery Window Blocker app. So basically, it blocks windows from scheduled delivery. Sorry, I will share my screen pretty.
Go ahead. Okay. So scheduled delivery, right? Something that we always want for appliances, maybe for groceries, right? And
yeah.
Why do you want to block windows? Oh, whoops! This is the wrong window.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's the wrong window?
No, I had the wrong window. Spoiler alert.
Perfect. So when you have a shipping policy with scheduled delivery, probably you have in the day-to-day operation some kind of, I don't know, you're missing some products from store, or I don't know, you have any unpredictable situation where you have to block a window. That's really common in grocery stores. So basically, we did an admin app, and we have two interfaces. We can do a little demo maybe next time. But you have an interface where you can block windows doing recurrent blocking or blocking on demand. So it also works with the delivery capacity native solution. So you can do the blocking at any time, and the delivery capacity will respect that. So yeah, I think that's it.
Got it. So if I want to be able to quickly adapt to unpredictable situations in scheduled delivery, this is the app I want, right?
Yeah, you have total control of your schedules.
Awesome.
Windows.
That's great. Control and dealing with the unpredictable, always something that's very useful. Thanks, Bia. Thanks for your update.
Thank you, George. Bye.
Sorry for cutting you off. I'm a little bit on a rush today, but this is the next announcement, payment provider framework. And for this announcement, I'd like to call Henrique. Hey, Henrique, how's it going?
Oh, hello, George. I'm good, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm presenting here this announcement about the payment provider framework, which we made publicly available for everyone now, but it still is in a beta stage, so you have to be careful about it. So what is this? This is an alternative way to develop payment connectors using VTEX.io. So what we had before, if you wanted to develop a payment connector for an integration, you would need to use the payment provider protocol. And this could be a lot of work because maybe you would need to develop this connector from scratch, and you would also need to worry about hosting the connector in an infrastructure. And this could be a lot of work just to make a connector to work in a store. So with PPF, this all changes because it is based on an IO app boilerplate, and a lot of work is already done there. Also, developers do not need to worry about hosting the connector since it's an IO app and it is hosted on the IO infrastructure. And this boilerplate here, it already has, for instance, all the routes, all the endpoints already implemented there. Um, that's part of the protocol. So like the addresses of the endpoints are already there. You just have to fill the functions with your needs. So what do you need to do to implement this? We have this example repository here on GitHub, which has the boilerplate, and you can start working with it. And you can check all the details here on the payment provider framework article, which is this article here. So we have all the details here, starting from cloning the base repository, updating the project. Here we have all the files and the folder structure. We have the manifest with all the payment methods. And here we also have all the available options for your connector. And here we have all the available endpoints of the protocol. Also, how to use the secret proxy that I will talk about it in a bit. And here we have the steps on how to test your connector in a store and how to make it available to everyone in all the stores. And about secret proxy, it's something you might want to give an annotation because if you want to process payments with debit, credit, or co-branded cards as payment methods, you have to implement this secret proxy inside your connector. And all details about how to implement it are here. And that's it. I hope this can help our partners to develop their payment connectors in an easier way. Thank you.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the big concerns with payment providers is auto scaling, right? Making sure that the payment provider is scalable, especially in high volume dates like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And having them in IO, it's kind of like, oh, it's already in the same infrastructure, it's resilient, it's really
Yes,
awesome.
you can have all standardized. It's a lot easier to implement, a lot easier to make it work in the store because it's an IO app. You just have like to publish and link, and you can already test it.
Really nice. And just to give a little bit more context to those of you who are not familiar with payment provider protocol, so it's basically an API contract, so to speak. It's a protocol for you to communicate with VTEX from an external service. But just like Henrique said, you need to, provision your infrastructure. Are you going to host it in AWS? Are you PCI compliant? That kind of stuff is always in your mind. And secure proxy, for instance, is a way for you to simplify a lot of that, right? Because all you need to really make sure that is PCI compliant is your payment system on your side, and we'll just tokenize the cards and keep it in our infrastructure, and then
Oh
the
yes,
tokenized
yes.
version is what allows us to approve or not, correct?
Oh, correct. Yes. When we are dealing with card transactions, there are all those issues because we are dealing with sensitive information, and you have to assure all this data is going through a secure infrastructure. So we have these issues with PCI compliance, and the secure proxy is one way that we can deal with it here in VTEX.
Yeah, so many challenges. Payment provider framework seems to address many of them. All these endpoints you're showing there in our API reference, you would have to implement yourself. Everything's done already in the IO boilerplate.
Yeah.
Life is a lot easier now. Thanks, Henrique.
Yes. All right, thank you, George.
All right, that's what we had for updates today. If you want to keep up with our updates, feel free to check out developers.vtex.com/changelog. That's where we publish everything. You'll get all these updates first, but of course you can follow us every couple weeks here on VTEX Developers as well. All right, so for the next section, it's Ask the Community, right? It's all about you. You ask the questions, and we'll do our best to answer them live. And for today, I'm the only one here, so bear with me. I'll be answering 4 questions from our community. The first one's by Mariana, and she was wondering about the disclosure state indicator. It's one of the props that exist in disclosure. The disclosure, let me find it here. Disclosure layout app. Let's go through this. So this is the experience that the disclosure layout app provides. You can see it in one of our demo stores. It's a way for you to show and hide specific parts of your store. And she wanted to be able to use the disclosure state indicator, which is the icon here that tells us if it's open or closed, correct? So it's a show hide states. So you can see it in action in our storetheme.vtex.com. It's what we use in our FAQ page. It's open source, so you could check it out in the GitHub repository for it. And note that this is where we use it, right? Disclosure state indicator, and then the prompts are the ones that allow us to show, look, this is the icon for show, and this is the icon for hide. And if you look into the documentation for it, you'll see that these prompts accept any block, okay? So it's a block, whatever you want. Now, she was wondering, like, hey, where does icon caret come from? I didn't see that declared anywhere. So why is that available to me, these small triangles here? And this is interesting. So we use store icons in our demo store. And this is a package that makes things really easy for us to use some of the icons that we have. So here's the list of all the icons that exist: icon arrow back, assistant sales, profile, cart, search, etc. Caret is right here, right? And we have these different orientations. So we can have it pointing up, down, left, right. Some others have other prompts that can be used, like type or that kind of stuff. Okay, so this was declared as a dependency in the manifest.json file for the store theme. And by doing so, you can use it as such, right? Doing icon hyphen the name of the icon, it'll just be exposed to you as a block that you can use, and that's really makes things a lot easier. So one of the things I did to kind of test that out was I changed icon caret down and icon caret up for icon hearts and icon globe that I found here. So yeah, icon hearts, icon globe. I didn't really know what those looked like, but this is the result I got. And you can pretty much put anything as your icon there. By the way, if you go into the store theme, there's an extra CSS rule that we added there to add some margin here. These look really stuck together. So you'd have to add something like this, like trigger, caret icon. Instead of caret icon, you put like globe icon or heart icon. And then you can add that margin to the right that makes things look a little bit better than this, right? You'd have this margin here that looks a lot better. For the last thing, what are other valid options for show hide props? So you don't have to use store icons. Like I said, you can use any block. And this is an example. I just use a rich text block, and I just added S and H like such. And this is what I achieved. So you can use basically whatever you want. If you have store icons that you prefer to use in your store, this is what you'd use. So yeah, that's it for Mariana's question. Thank you for the question, Mariana. You're always here with us. It's always a pleasure to answer your questions. Let's talk about Ashif. So Ashif was developing his first backend service in Node. He was getting their client network socket disconnected before a secure TLS connection was established. So Ashif was trying to basically do a get list of SKUs inside his service. So he started off with our service example, which is also open source, available in our app store. In our VTEX apps organization. I'm going to go ahead and just link here for you to take a look. So you can go to VTEX apps. There's a bunch of open source code there you can learn from. This is one of those. So it's a reference app implementing a VTEX IO service with HTTP route handlers. So this is the boilerplate that we use when we want to expose an API, for instance, in VTEX IO. So what he did, I created a patch here with all the changes that he described here. Things like he added this outbound access policy. It's super important so that you can access routes that are outside VTEX IO infrastructure. So for instance, if you have to call an external service, you need to say which host and which path. That will make sure that your app isn't making suspicious calls to a back channel that's storing all your customers' data. You really want to keep control of what data is going out, right? That's why we have outbound access policies. In this case, he did something that is uncommon, but can happen. He added a VTEX URL as an outbound host because he thought he had to do that, right, for accessing catalog APIs. So he added that, and then he added a new route. So we have in our boilerplate a status route, and he added the products route. He linked a middleware, so what's going to process that route. And then he said, oh, this is my function here. Basically, he's using Axios to do a get request to one of our APIs, the catalog list SKU IDs API endpoint. So he was getting this error. It's really ugly. Client network socket disconnected before secure TLS connection. He's like, I don't even understand what's going on here. Isn't this supposed to work? I'm used to using Axios and it just works automatically. So yeah, Zed from our team tried to help out, looking over Stack Overflow. He thought that was a weird error. It's like, can you use Postman there? What's the issue? And yeah, he was able to use it. Postman, he was a little bit off base. He didn't really figure out the right answer here. So he tried. Good A for effort, not the right direction. I found out later. Paulo was a little bit closer. So he went into some of the details about how routing works inside VTEX, and that's not something that we have 100% documented. So it's my bad there. But there's this thing called KubeRouter that is part of the routing process inside VTEX IO. And what Paulo said from his own experience is that KubeRouter will block outgoing HTTPS requests. That's usually because HTTPS has this, mutual back and forth sign off between different hosts. So it doesn't work the way you would expect, just adding HTTPS to the front. What he suggested was use the route without HTTPS and then use the xvtex use HTTPS true header so that you will get HTTPS when going outbound, but within the VTEX infrastructure of HTTP. That's what I understood, at least. This will allow the request to get through the router and then will be changed to HTTPS. Yeah, I didn't know that. Something I learned. But this is the final solution I came up with last night. So this is a patch if you want to replicate. But first tip I gave to Ashif is if you're calling VTEX APIs, you should definitely take a look at the connecting to VTEX Core Commerce APIs documentation, where we go through the IO clients solution that really helps a lot. So there are a couple IO clients that you can just import and use. One of them is the catalog client. But the way you'd use it, as seen in the README, is you're an ad, so you use that package, and then you import it, and then there are some getters and setters that you can use right off the bat. You don't need to think about Axios. You don't need to think about which endpoint I'm using there exactly, what's the exact format. So there are some things that you can use. Definitely recommend looking through it, and you could even say which authentication method you'd like to use. If you want to use the apps token, which it would have the permissions for your policies there in your app, or you could use store users token or an admin users token if you're using that for an app that users interact with and log in through. Either way, so this is what I'd recommend he would do if he needed to use the catalog API. But I understand he was actually trying to learn about services and how do you call an external API. So if you really needed to have that code work, first step would be changing HTTPS to HTTP, and there were a couple other errors that he had. So the actual authentication header name needs to be VTEX ID client AUT. It doesn't have the auth like you would expect. It doesn't have the H, and then cookie. Here's if you look through his code, he had VTEX ID auth cookie. That's slightly different, and you might miss it, but yeah, that's definitely a mistake there. And also the list all SKU IDs endpoint has two required parameters, which are page and page size. Otherwise, it would return an empty list. That's what I found, at least. So already getting ahead of him. So after you solve the TLS error, you'd have that issue because he didn't add the parameters here or anywhere for that matter. So that was really important. And yeah, going through this, I was able to get a list of SKUs, and I was really happy with my results. So yeah, that was awesome. Hope that helps, Ashif. Yeah, first few days with VTEX.io can be a struggle, but once you go beyond that, that first kind of estrangement learning period can be really fun. Cool. So moving on to the next question, it's about store development. Arthur Serra is asking about adding icons to the add to cart button. He's trying to add an icon to the add to cart button like this. He's like, hey, I don't know how to achieve this result. Can you help, please? Okay, so I was really happy to see that I didn't even have to interact. The community itself works with us. So kudos to Gitavano. He went ahead and he said like, hey, I think with CSS you can do a lot, right? And he gave a suggestion what this button looks like. And yeah, he said like you need an after property there, a pseudo selector for the button, and these are some things they can do, etc. And I thought, yeah, it looks good. One thing that you need to know though is where do you put that CSS rule, right? That's something that confuses a lot of folks using VTEX.io. And what I said is that specific button is rendered by the Add to Cart button app that's available also in VTEX apps. So it's this component, right? And this component can be customized using what we call CSS handles. These are 3 CSS handles that are available for that button. This documentation goes through in detail how this works and how do you find the right class and what's the right file for you to do that. But long story short, what you need to do is create this file here. So styles-vtex.add-to-cart-button.css. That's where you would add the CSS rules for that component. And the final code, just following the exact same solution given by Gitavano, is dot button text. That's one of the CSS selectors that are available. Dot colon after, and then whatever. It looks really horrible. I can quickly show you guys just so you see like there's a little bit more to it than just adding the rules. There's some magic to CSS that I'm not 100%. Okay, I think I need to. So yeah, I'm definitely not a front-end engineer by any means. So let me see here. This is what we did, right? Styles, CSS, VTEX add to cart button. This is what I did. And if I open my store here, by the way, this is the result of the API, right? We were talking about for a sheaf. Just already have the endpoints. Interesting that you always have that underscore V there. Anyway, if I navigate to my store, I might have to log in. No, I don't. Okay, so this is what my solution achieves. It's horrible, right? And maybe you don't want that same result in every single add to cart button in your store, right? Maybe you just want it inside the product page. And you need to be aware of that, right? Any styling that you add to a component will apply to every single component, unless you do this thing we talked about already in the previous office hours. Use the block class property. So you're able to say, like, this is the one I want to fiddle around with. So for instance, you can use this inspect parameter. It's in the docs. Once you do that, you're able to figure out the classes that are linked to specific components. Here, I added a block class PDP, which stands for product page, product details page. So if I wanted to just add to that one, I think what I need to do is something like this. I save it. Now I'll continue to have this icon in a really ugly position there. But if I go to my homepage, I should not see that there. Let's see if it's working as I expected. Yeah, so my add to cart buttons are free from icons. So just so you know, you can target specific add to cart buttons, or you can target all of them, just about using the block class. Yeah, so yeah, you definitely need to do some work on the CSS to get it just right, but that's the general idea. Hope that helps, Arthur. Thanks for your question. And final question for today, bank slip interactions with personal client data. So Victor, he wanted to change the bank slip. And I think that might not be the right wording here. I think he wanted to talk about boletos, which is a form of payment that's really popular here in Brazil. It's a way for you to basically take a paper to the bank and pay for it, kind of like debit, but you don't have a card. He wanted to change how that boleto is formed. So the specific fields, where do I draw specific customer data from? He wanted to use custom fields. That's something that you can see in checkout. But what I told him is, hey, Victor, you probably can't do that if you're just using a connector that was developed by someone else. If you use the payment provider framework, and he could talk to us about, and you develop your own payment provider, then you could do whatever you want, like the logic of how the bank slips or boletos are formed. But if you don't have that configuration in your payment provider, that's not going to be possible. So unfortunate. There's a lot less you can do in between checkout and payment if you're not the one developing the payment provider. All right, so that was it for today for Ask the Community. If you liked it, please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. And if you want your question to be answered here, of course, add the office hours tag to your question in VTEX Community. We'll do our best to find the answers and answer it live. And this is my favorite part of office hours, and today we have a special guest. It's demo time. Demo time is when we find someone from VTEX or from the ecosystem. You know, if you're watching, you can present a demo. And we're sharing knowledge, right? We're sharing our experiences with what it's like to develop inside VTEX with our APIs, with store development, with app development. And for today, we have our special guest, Brian Talma. He's from the US regional product team as a software engineer. He'll be talking to us about reviews and ratings. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Hello, it's going great. So,
what's reviews and ratings all about? Tell us about that.
Well, we needed a way to, allow shoppers to leave a review or, rate a product. So this was one of the early IO apps that I made. So,
Yeah, let's get right to it. Just show us, and then I'll ask more questions later. So here's your screen. Take it away.
Yeah, so here's just the view in GitHub for a brief overview. Default behavior is, adding stars to rate, or you can leave a text response. There's some various settings like, allowing anonymous reviews. Otherwise, you have to be logged in. The shopper has to be logged in order to leave a review. You can require administrative approval. We'll look at that screen in a second here. Just so you can kind of make sure that the review someone leaves is appropriate. Not something you want to have displayed. Some various other options. There should be a lot of hooks for all the hooks you need to customize the appearance for your site should be available to you. And there's also a backend API, which we'll get to in a second. Let's see, but roughly on the site, it's going to look, something like this. This is an optional, displaying how many of what star. This shopper happened to be a verified purchaser, which means when someone leaves a review for a SKU, we go check all of the VTEX orders and see if they actually bought the SKU that they're leaving a review for, and then that'll add the verified purchaser tag.
I didn't know that was even possible. So that's something I learned about your app today. That's really nice.
Yeah, a lot of the shopper information is kind of automatically looked up, so you can't. Some of that information fills in, like verified purchaser, or also preventing them from leaving multiple reviews for the same product. A shopper can leave one review per product.
Can they change their mind later?
Currently, there is not a way for the shopper to edit their review. There is a GraphQL interface to edit reviews, but we haven't worked out all of the security
that flow. It's not really common though, right? If a shopper really wanted to change their review, they could reach out to customer service, for instance, and the store could do that on the back end if they wanted to, right?
Yes, or the store could work out a custom interface using the GraphQL or the API, to do it themselves. But
nice.
So
that's a bit of the shopper experience in terms of the reviews and ratings side, and on the admin side and the merchant experience. Like you said, you may filter which reviews get in or don't, or you can just auto approve, right?
Yeah, you can. If you don't feel like administering, and having to approve reviews, and you want, as soon as the shopper leaves a review, you want it to show on the website, you don't have to require approval. But default, you're going to have to approve the reviews people leave. So they'll come in as pending. You can look at it, make sure that it's, not spam or vulgar or, any that you want it to show. You can approve or delete them one at a time. You can bulk approve or delete. Approved ones, even after they're approved, you can you can remove them if if you change your mind later.
Can you
There's an
hide
interface.
them currently? No, right? Just delete.
Deleting, right, is there isn't a hide.
Yeah,
Suppose we
that
could
would
add
be
it.
unlikely, right? After you approve it, for you to want
I
to hide it.
suppose
But
we could.
maybe if you auto approve it, maybe you want to hide it for a while just to validate it or something.
Yeah, maybe we should be able to unapprove it after you've approved it, and then it would go
Maybe I'll
back
do
into
a pull
pending.
request for the app. I mean, it's open source, right? So the nice thing is that anyone watching here can go through the code, understand how it works, and of course, if they want something new, they can always write it up themselves and submit
Yep,
it to the
it's all there in GitHub. It's React on the front end and .NET for the back end, data heavy stuff.
Awesome.
And you can get you can download the reviews, for
If you need to migrate for
review
some
record
reason,
keeping,
yeah, or
migrations. Yeah.
data
Speaking of
analysis,
migrations,
whatever.
like I said in the beginning, this was one of my first IO apps. I maybe made some design decisions that, in hindsight weren't the best. For instance, I started using VBase for everything.
Sorry, key value storage is supposed to be simple, right? But
at the time it made sense because for master data you have to apply a schema, and that required some manual steps. And the desire was to allow the merchant to just install the app and get going and not have to do manual steps. But we quickly, their sites quickly outgrew the capabilities of VBase to, respond in a timely manner. So we had to move to master data.
master data was a lot more responsive, a lot more performatic.
Yes, yeah. Master data can handle the, VBase was fine when you had hundreds of reviews per SKU, but when we started having sites with thousands to tens of thousands of reviews, master data could handle it and VBase could not.
Got it.
So now version 3 of the app uses master data, but for the sites that we're still using the older versions, we put in the ability to just automatically migrate the data from VBase to master data. So whenever they're ready to do the migration, there's a handy button and everything should happen for them. It should.
So it looks like a very complete app. Like there's a front end aspect, there's an admin app aspect, there's a backend in .NET. So what was the kind of most challenging part of starting off as your first IO app?
Well, yeah, working, let's see, the most challenging parts I think were around good caching, because you're loading all, especially on like a home page where they might be displaying a banner of items, and they also want to have the reviews. You're loading, reviews for, several items, or every time you click on a product page, you're loading all of the rating and all of the reviews. So you had to think, how many reviews do I want to kind of like show at a time, and then how to intelligently cache it so that when someone does leave a review or a review gets approved, it shows up in a timely manner, because otherwise it creates confusion,
Lack
where
of
it's
trust,
like,
right?
where did my review go? I spent all this time writing a great review and I don't see it, and where is it?
At the same time, you don't want to have to fetch data every time, right? So that's the balance you're trying to look for.
Right.
Nice. And what about the storefront part? You had to create your own blocks, right, for reviews and ratings to be usable in Store Framework stores. So there's a React side to it, but also adapting that to our logic of like, this is a block that you could add to your product page and for it to be seamlessly integrated. How was
Yeah,
that
and
process for you? You need to add a layer of abstraction, so to speak, right?
yeah, and yeah, it was tough because yeah, there's there's a lot of different store layouts, and providing the flexibility to add it, to the product page, to a on a like a home page where you might have it in a banner or something, or in a footer. Um, it was definitely a challenge, and the app continues to improve.
Awesome. That's very nice. And what about the .NET Builder? It's very rare for us to see folks using it. I mean, a lot of people use Node for the backend, and you decided to go for .NET. Is it because of performance, or you're just more familiar with .NET? What was the rationale there?
Well, I'm more familiar with .NET, but also I think it works better for back end data heavy processes.
Nice. And what were the design decisions behind? Some of the APIs are provided as GraphQL endpoints, others are REST APIs. How did you, split and merge through those, like decide through those, which should be on which side, and were there any particular challenges in offering one kind of API versus the other?
Well, the GraphQL interface is designed to allow the storefront, to talk to the data layer, the back
It's
end.
like a backend for front end, so to speak, pattern, right? Like a BFF
Yeah.
or something. So it's just for the blocks, basically.
But yes, yeah, or any customization, that a store might want to make. Part of the beauty of the whole IO and VTEX system is anybody can make their own changes and kind of plug into what's there. But then there was a need to bulk import reviews if for sites that were coming from another platform. So I added an API to allow basically bulk operations, without having to, you could craft a query for against master data and put reviews in one at a time. But like I said, for sites with tens of thousands of reviews, they needed a way to do it easily. So most of the features were exposed in an API that is easy to call and add large groups of reviews.
Nice. I'm looking through the through the source code, and I see you have some tests going there in Cypress. How did you define that? How was that useful to also like find out edge cases and deploy as you evolve the app? How is that workflow going for your team?
We have a great test team, creating these automated tests that run, every night, plus every time we make a change in GitHub. Before you can check in that change, there's a lot of automated tests that run, and it's just making sure that this app, because it's very popular, it's installed in a lot of places. We're just ensuring through these automated tests that it will continue to function, and that we're not going to deploy a version that breaks anything.
Nice. And did you? I see it's an app that uses the messages builder, which means that it's ready to, be localized in all of our admin languages. Now we have 11 admin languages like Bulgarian, Japanese, Korean, so on. I imagine you had some support from the localization team to do that, but How do you feel about that? Like being able to deploy an app and for it to be available in multiple languages, multiple countries, it could be used all over the world.
Well, yeah, it's great. Yeah, and the system, works great. We can turn it over, to the localization team, after we write it, and they can, do all the translations. Or if, which has happened, from time to time, there's a country that wants to install it, but we don't have their translation yet. They can just pull a branch and do
Add
their
those
own
JSON files,
translation.
right?
Yeah, and just add their own translations, and boom, it's ready to go.
Yeah, that's really great. Any other thing you'd like to show us before we end this demo, Brian? Anything like about the APIs or the source code that you think might be useful for us?
I guess just to clarify on the APIs, there's like a review singular set of endpoints and reviews plural set of endpoints. If you want to do bulk operations, you got to use the plural one with a key and token. That lets you specify every
like a list of IDs?
Well, you can specify every field in the review.
Nice.
Such as who the shopper is and whether they're verified, whether they've bought before. If you use the singular endpoints, just review, that's like you are pretending to be that shopper, and some of those fields are not going to be accessible. It's going to be automatically filled in. Is this shopper a verified purchaser? Have they reviewed this SKU before? So if you want to bypass those automatic lookups, just do the bulk operations.
Nice. Good tip. Good tip. All right. And for developers out there who want to go through the source code, using ratings, and learn from it, do you have any tips, like anything that you have to have as a prerequisite? Like, take a look at this documentation or learn a bit more about this before you look through the source code, so you can learn a little bit faster. Do you have any tips on that side?
Well, it's it's a great example of a lot of stuff all working together, a lot of layers. Obviously you want to be familiar with the VTEX IO system, .NET, React,
a little bit of everything. React,
yeah.
GraphQL.
Yeah, this is if you want to see a whole lot of stuff all working together, this is a great app for that.
Yeah, I myself have looked through it a few times and learned a lot from it. Like, I'm not really sure how to do this. How to use master data inside my IO app. What are the right policies I need? Permissions are something that we didn't document that well. So it's nice that you already went through the trouble of figuring out, like, what are the right outbound policies and what are the right permissions, and that's really interesting. All right, do you have anything else for our team, or should we call it a wrap?
I think I'm all set.
All right. Thank you very much for your demo, Brian. That was really enlightening. You're always free to come back, show us more apps that your team has developed. It was great having you here.
Thank you.
All right. That was an exciting demo. And you can be a part of this too. So if you have anything you'd like to share in Global Office Hours, we have this form, community.vtex.com/office hours global. It could be anything. Developed an app, learned something, have a go live. My store looks really good. I want to show the world. This is where you can send it. We'll be happy to have you here in our office hours. So that is it for today. I was really happy to be here once again. I think in the next edition we'll have Alex again. But until then, see you next time.